Hello. Hope everybody is having a great day 2 of Connections. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to talk to you about driving optimal engagement from your email campaigns through using predictive intelligence and personalization. Our speakers today are Matt Kaufman. He is the Director of Product Management for the Predictive Intelligence team, and Dasha Gassel, who is a Digital Marketing Manager for Diesel. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Matt.
Thanks, Megan. Appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, good. Well, first of all, let's start with an interactive portion a little bit since we're all about engagement. Can I see a show of hands? How many of you are actively involved in managing email campaigns for your brand? Great. That's awesome. Right track for you guys. How many of you believe that you're actively using personalization technologies today to improve the effectiveness of those campaigns? Raise them up. Well, that's good. That's a pretty high number. I think that means we have a lot of opportunity here to kind of hopefully give you something that you can take back and start to really understand how you can use personalization to really improve your own efforts. Show of hands, how many people want me to run this whole show from my watch? Okay. Will.i.am didn't give that up to me yesterday, so sorry. Let's get this started. Okay, so there are 3 main areas we're going to focus on today. First of all, we're going to talk about how we can collect customer data, and we can make this whole process of bringing that data into the Marketing Cloud way more seamless for you, giving you all kinds of new opportunities to engage with your customers. Secondly, we're going to talk about how listening to customers can drive more efficient revenue and allow you to market to individual customers more effectively. And we're going to show you some examples of how we do that within the Marketing Cloud. And finally, we're going to talk to an actual customer. We have Dasha from Diesel here today who's going to talk about how they're actively using predictive intelligence solutions within their email campaigns to make them more effective. Okay, so this is something you already know. Email remains the highest converting messaging channel. It's extremely important to today's consumer. Yet consumers are inundated by all the messaging that they receive from all the different brands that they interact with. This makes it imperative. It's more important than ever to come up with messages that your subscribers simply can't and won't ignore. Well, what's the solution? How do we get around this? We think that the best way to do this is to start to understand your consumers on an individual level and tailor your communications to their unique needs and preferences. Predictive Intelligence, which is the group that I work in, gives you a set of tools that help you collect data, automate the content that goes out to your customers, and deliver it seamlessly within the exact target email channel. And again, all those people that raise their hands should love that feature. So why does this matter? Well, to us, the results speak for themselves. When we go out and we work with a customer, we're actually measuring live all of the different campaigns that we're empowering for them. So we can show ROI as customers engage with content and they go online and they click through and they engage more with the actual content on the website, or they convert. We start to measure that, and we can gauge the effectiveness of the campaign when it's been enhanced by PI. We see improvements in conversion rates, improvements in open rates, click-through rates, and we're doing things like minimizing opt-outs and unsubscribe rates, and this is all using the power of personalization technology to help make this happen. Well, how does this work? Personalization starts with real-time data. Data is the building block of every interaction that we want to have with our customers. Without it, brands would mass market, they would lose effectiveness, they'd increase opt-outs, they'd otherwise lose that opportunity to connect with today's highly empowered and highly informed consumer. We need to do this differently. Data, brands may think that they have data, but oftentimes that data is coming from many disparate sources, and as many of you are probably aware, that can be a huge headache from the standpoint of having to work with IT to bring in all of the data that you need to make your campaigns personalized. Additionally, even when you have all that data into the Marketing Cloud, it might not be that in that full 360-degree view, all of the implicit and explicit data that can really make your campaigns the most effective. So personalization starts with getting to know your customer. What we want to do is observe what the customer is doing. We want to ask them questions. We want to look at views, opens, purchases, interactions, and we want to use that to derive the needs and preferences of that customer so we can better communicate with them. Okay, so this graphic kind of gives you an idea of how this works within our engine. So those icons on the left, the beautiful icons flowing into our engine, are each being individually looked at in real time by the Predictive Intelligence engine. And we're not just looking at, somebody opened this particular email or looked at this particular product or engaged with this particular piece of content. We go a level deeper. We want to understand what that content or what that product was, and what was it about that particular product or content that made it interesting. So we look at things like attributes, we look at things like subject matter, and we really use that to help us derive what you see on the right side, this beautiful representation of an individual user's interests and affinities. Each one of those boxes represents a unique interest of that user. The bigger the box, the higher the affinity. And those can be anything. Those can be product sizes. Those can be colors. Those can be price ranges, subject matter. Again, all of this flows into one place that you can use to make your messaging more actionable. So the ExactTarget Marketing Cloud is storing this data for your customers regardless of whether they are known or unknown. As soon as you implement the Predictive Intelligence observation beacon on your digital channels, this data starts to come to life, regardless of whether we know who that user is. So what we can do is start to collect this data about this consumer in an anonymous context, and then as they raise their hand and identify themselves, we can pull forward all that information that we've already collected about that individual, and again, make it actionable for you. It's a really powerful way to start engaging with your consumer. Predictive intelligence leverages sophisticated algorithms combined with your business logic to create this one-to-one interaction with your customers. Additionally, once you have all of these clicks and opens and purchases and views all flowing into the engine, they become immediately actionable, giving you an intuitive and holistic way to interact with your customers, happening in real time. And of course, without the hassle of managing all this data, without having to bring this in from all these different systems and trying to integrate it, you can focus on what's most important, which is keeping your customers engaged. So let's talk a little bit about how we do this. Once you have this stream of data that's coming in to the Marketing Cloud, you can start to use that data to create unique one-to-one interactive content with your customers. So here we have the email template. This is Brian. We've observed through Brian's behavior on a website that he has certain interests, and we represent that here on the boxes. He's into hiking. He's into backpacks, mountains, tents. And here we have a message. And what we've done in the background is we've taken all of this data and we've collapsed it into this view, and now we can make this particular template as easy as drag and drop to get personalized content into your messaging. And now you see that this message going out to Brian has a hero graphic that reflects camping. It has content recommendations that reflect his interests. It has product recommendations that match his interests. Again, same template going out to many different users. If Susie had a different set of interests, Susie would get a different email. And this is all happening automatically based on the integration within the Marketing Cloud. Now, it's got to be a big challenge for all of you, and I imagine that's why many of you come to Connections, is to try to make sense of all these different tools that you can use to increase in customer engagement and really give you an advantage when you're trying to reach that customer online. What we're trying to say is if you use the Predictive Intelligence solution within the Marketing Cloud, we can make this entire job easier. We've again highlighted within this particular email template something that many of you who manage content and deal with this on a daily basis can understand. We can do everything from personalizing that hero graphic up top to providing content recommendations, all the way down to the bread and butter, which is product recommendations, that all are consistent. That customer gets a consistent experience every time they have one of these digital interactions with your brand. Additionally, after you've already got all this data coming in and you're using predictive content in your emails, there are other ways that predictive intelligence can help you. We don't want to just tell you what to interact with a customer, we tell you when. We can look at this event data, find these interesting events, and use that to power and trigger messaging that goes out to your customers. We can even tell you what order or what priority to use to send the most effective customer message to that customer at the right time. So if an abandoned cart happens, it may overlay a different kind of approach that you might have with a customer. This is a great way to expand the power of the platform that we're enabling for you. But really the most important thing is loyalty. This level of interaction, this level of understanding with your customer shows that they're important to you. And you're going to prove that your brand is listening to your customers by immediately responding to any interaction they have with you, regardless of the type of interaction. We do this again and again on a regular basis. That one-to-one profile gets better. The better your communications get, the happier your customer is. So what's great about predictive intelligence is we've been doing this for a while. We showed you some numbers earlier within the presentation, but we actually have a lot of customers who are having a lot of experience with this and having a lot of success with it. And we brought up Dasha to kind of give her own perspective on it and hopefully answer some questions additionally you might have about how predictive intelligence works. Thanks, Dasha.
Cool, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Cool, well, thanks for coming. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our experience with predictive intelligence. Just a little bit of background. May I have the clicker? Oh, thank you. Just a little bit of background on Diesel for those of you who are not familiar with our brand. We're a clothing company. We're best known, I suppose, for denim, but we do manufacture all kinds of apparel. We were founded and are still based in Braganza, Italy, which is a well-known fact. Most people think we're an American brand. We do have a number of international subsidiaries, including the one in the United States, which is based in New York City, which is where I work on our e-commerce team. And so one of the things I manage is email marketing. And for myself, as I'm sure for many of you in the room, the goal is to drive more revenue from the email channel. And we face quite a few challenges there. One is the fact that we are a very small marketing team, or e-commerce team, I should say, of 3 people. So we have limited resources and limited time. We also had, even before incorporating Marketing Cloud into our strategy, we had problems with data. It was limited, it was siloed. There's some data loss due to migration from various e-commerce platforms. And as a result, our marketing strategy basically consisted of sending a newsletter once or twice a week to our entire database, which is a very antiquated way of looking at email strategy. So we really wanted to move to a new way of communicating with our consumer, which was focused on more personalized communication, so going beyond just putting them into segments or buckets and really speaking to them in a one-on-one way. But that was very difficult with our limited resources and the limited data that we had. At the same time, we knew it was very important. Diesel is not a cheap brand. We know that we're communicating with a sophisticated consumer who has a lot of options in the marketplace, and we needed to really refine our strategy. So this is where we started enabling predictive intelligence. We started by enabling it on our website. And what we saw right away is that we were able to pull multiple data points from multiple sources in one place. So everything that Matt was speaking to earlier, in the back end of the tool, I can literally go in and put in Matt's email address and be able to see his purchase history, his browse behavior, his search history, items that he's favorited, items that he shared via social media. The level of data is incredibly granular, which is great for us. We never had access to that kind of data before. At the same time, the data is automated because, as you can imagine, I can't possibly look at that kind of information for tens of thousands of people and be able to process it and customize a marketing message to each individual. So the automation makes it really easy for us to deliver the right message to the right customer on a day-to-day basis. At the same time, what I really like about it is that it gives us a level of control. So I can control the message as much as or as little as I would like. So one example is during summer, we're in a promotional period. We wanted to clear out our spring-summer inventory. We were on sale quite a bit. So we're fine communicating or giving our customer recommendations that were sale. Now that it's September, we rolled out our fall-winter collection. As a company, our focus is to focus on full-price items. So, sale items are still on the site, but we don't want to make it a focus. So I can literally set rules within the rule manager that say, okay, API, do its thing, provide the recommendations, run your algorithm, but if somebody is looking at a full-priced item, don't show them an item that is on sale. So in that way, we can remain aligned with Diesel's goals as a company. And one more thing I'm going to say about this, and I can't emphasize it enough for those of you who were in the morning keynote. I apologize if this is redundant, but the real-time data collection is just so important to us, especially in our business. I think the example that I gave was, if you bought a watch, and in the past when we marketed to somebody retroactively and we're sending you an email about a watch, at this point, it's not relevant to you, right? Because you already bought a watch and you're not going to buy another one within 3 or 6 months. But it goes even beyond that. So imagine, for example, a college student who really identifies with our brand, and he's purchased items before on sales section, and we sort of put him in that sale bucket, and we only send him communication about sales. But he's since then graduated, went on to become a successful working professional. He has a disposable income, and now he wants to buy those more aspirational, high priced sometimes items, and we're still marketing to him as a consumer who shops under 200 category. And so we're really missing an opportunity here. So be able to see that user's activity and that user's intent in real time is just incredibly empowering to us as marketers. All right, moving on. The other thing that PI has enabled us to do is to really bridge the gap between web and email. So we've always known that our consumer was interacting with us across different channels, but with our limited resources, we were never able to make sure that they're aligned and are communicating the same message. Now what we can do is make sure that the behavior that they take on our site is then not replicated, but complemented within our email marketing. So Matt was speaking earlier to the templates and how they remain the same, but you can include specific recommendations. So this is an example of our welcome email that we launched recently, which the photography speaks to our fall-winter campaign. And you can see it's a small image, but embedded within it, there's small recommendation that are specific to the behavior of that user, which it looks like this particular gentleman was looking at underwear. But this is, and that's what the email is going to look like for this gentleman, but for somebody who looked at shoes, it may reflect shoes or something else. So being able to bridge this gap, it was incredibly powerful, and I think we're just getting started with email, really. I'll speak more to that in a little bit. All right, so with bridging this gap, it was just really important for us to start listening to customer cues to make sure that the content that they were looking at on our site was reflected in the recommendations, reflected in our email marketing, and to do this in an automated way. And even before the welcome email, a really important place for us to start was the abandoned cart campaign. What we had known for a long time is we had a really high abandoned cart rate. What we suspected was that a lot of consumers were using our site to do research, conduct product discovery, but were ultimately going to third-party sites to find a better deal on the same item. So it became imperative for us to retain that consumer. So we launched the abandoned cart campaign, which is a triggered campaign. And you can see here an example of one of those emails. So basically, when you leave an item in your cart, I believe within a couple hours, you receive this email. But we took it a step further and added the personalized recommendations that were based on the item you left in the cart and the behavior of users who purchased a similar item. What we saw right away was a lift in conversions, a lift in revenue, and all other metrics as well. So open rate, click-through rate, a decrease in unsubscribes. So it was really, just telling us that consumers are highly engaged with this content, much more so than our usual batch blast newsletter, and they're really responding to it. And a surprise learning for us was that at times, we saw much higher levels of engagement and conversions with the items that were recommended, as opposed to the initial item that was left in the cart that triggered this email. So this was really the first of the email campaigns that we launched utilizing predictive intelligence, and it's very exciting for a couple of reasons. One is that this is something that's automated. So once the templates were put together, once we embedded the recommendations, I believe we launched this 4 or 5 months ago. This is sort of set in place and it requires minimal effort on my part, aside from, every morning I log into the cloud and I see how many emails were sent, how much revenue was generated. So this is something that's, a complement to our ongoing marketing efforts with minimal effort. The other part is just makes us understand the potential of it. So if you think about it, the results that we're seeing here are great, but it's really only going to a small part of our audience, right? It's somebody who registered on the site, gave us permission to send them marketing messages, and also took the action of leaving an item in the cart. So when we think about what we can do beyond this, what if we also had a browse abandon campaign? What if we also had some sort of a retention campaign utilizing predictive intelligence recommendations? Just the opportunity alone is very exciting. So of course, the end goal of personalization, deliver the right experience to the right person at the right time in the right channel. As I mentioned, I think we're starting to get there with the email campaigns that we have launched, and we're really excited about the potential of it moving forward. So, when we're thinking about the abandoned cart campaign, it's how can we optimize it in order to improve that conversion rate? So should we give somebody as an incentive to buy an item, or should we tweak the way the recommendation engine works to recommend certain, or to give preference to certain items over others? With something like the welcome email, we have the one email in place, but what we would love to do is to launch an entire email series where we're not just speaking to our customer in a way that's, here's the collection, buy this item, and being promotional, but really engaging them with the brand holistically. So one idea that we're throwing around is sending an email with a video of our Fashion Week runway show, and really taking the customer on the journey, if you will, and really engaging them with the brand and personalizing their experience beyond just a single interaction. So one way, or the way that we're looking to do so, and I can't speak to it a lot because we're really just in the very beginning phases, but we have just signed on for Journey Builder. And I believe as of just very recently, Journey Builder is able to incorporate PI recommendation into the email. So we're really excited to sort of take these initial steps, abandoned cart campaign, the welcome email, and to really make it a holistic, ongoing conversation, an ongoing dialogue with our customer by embedding it within the Journey Builder. So just some key takeaways. Predictive intelligence gives us a new arsenal. I mean, prior to this, as I mentioned, we had very limited data. And also, even if we had all that data, we just had limited resources to sift through it. When I even try to imagine manually dissecting all of those bits of information and the amount of spreadsheets that it would entail, it gives me a panic attack. So the ability to do it, or to rather not do it and allow this tool to do it on our behalf is incredibly empowering. And that's really where the efficiency comes in. We can't possibly customize each and every message. We can't possibly merchandise every single product and the recommendations that accompany it. So the efficiency of the automation has been great, especially for a team as small as ours. At the same time, having the level of control where I can set rules, tell it to do this, but not this, give preference to this type of recommendation. I like having that sense of control. And finally, personalized messages give us an advantage with our customers. And when I say advantage, I don't mean just revenue, I don't mean conversions, but although certainly that's important. But I think just being able to have that ongoing dialogue and be able to increase that level of engagement and to resonate with our consumer where they keep coming back and they keep engaging with our marketing materials and really engaging with our brand and really becoming brand ambassadors because it does resonate with them. They don't feel that they're being communicated to on mass scale. We're really communicating with them as individuals. So that is it for me. I do think we had a demo scheduled.
Yeah, real quick. Thank you so much, Dasha, for all that information. Those are really incredible numbers, and I think that reflects kind of that second slide when we got up and we talked about how we can improve conversion rates and how we can improve all of these numbers across the board just by improving the relevancy to our customers. This is reflected in the real world with Diesel Experience. And one thing that I wanted to highlight real quick is that Dasha has a small team, and I think many of you probably are in the same position where you're trying to do more with less resources. So one thing we strive to do in PI is make all of this easy. There's a lot of complicated things going on in the background, but it's really, really, really easy. I'd like to bring up Linda Erickson, who's a product manager on our team, just do a quick 2-minute demo of how easy it is to bring in the predictive content. Did reset. That's okay. Oh, don't worry about it. Well, how about we'll have Linda set that up. Let's go to some questions and answers real quick based on what you guys have heard today, and maybe Dasha and I can answer a few of those and see what you guys have. There's somebody in the...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll try to talk loudly. So you recently just did this, sort of obviously. And how did you come to this software decision in terms of your team?
That's a good question. I can't take credit for it. Actually, our VP of Online, our former VP of Online, Scott Lux, was the one that made this decision to incorporate this product into our marketing strategy, and I obviously think it was a very good one. But I think it really came from a place where we understood that we couldn't keep doing what we're doing. Sending the same message to a huge audience and hope, okay, so we're talking about jackets this week. We're going to send it to everybody and hope that out of the 16 to 20% hope in that email, enough people will want to buy a jacket that week, and then they'll click through and make the purchase. It just wasn't working for us. We realized that we had to deliver customized content and deliver it to the right audience. And the goal was really to stop exhausting our database by sending the same email to everybody, but to send more emails to less people, but generate the same revenue because we're targeting the right people with the right message, or hopefully even greater revenue. And in some cases, we have seen that.
Go ahead.
How many customer segments? Oh, sorry. I'm just in awe that you do this with a small marketing department. And and what's really resonating with me is the antiquated nature of sending one message to everybody. And I'm intrigued, but I'm curious really how you do it with a small team, and how many customer segments do you have? And are you just running a sweatshop of people who are just don't leave or have lives?
That's what's really happening in Italy. That's the sweatshop. No, so I just got really close to the mic. I think this is where what Matt was talking about. It's not that we are creating these segments, and we still do that for some purposes, and in some instances, we'll still send an email to our entire database. Of course, when we announce the launch of a new collection, I think that warrants letting everybody know. But it's more the idea of taking a generic message, like a welcome email, and having that template, but then the content that's updated is customized for each individual. So say on a given day today, 100 new people will sign up for welcome emails. I encourage all of you to sign up. You will all receive an email that sort of kind of looks the same, but not, because it will reflect the behaviors that you took on our site and behaviors that similar actions triggered. So does that make sense? So it's not like, that's the beauty of it. We're not manually putting together a customized message. We're putting together a shell of a message, and then the predictive intelligence is what's driving that customization, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and you can do that many times over, too. You build that shell one time, you configure the content the way that you want it to appear within that predictive area within your templates one time, and then you can reuse it in every outgoing campaign. You may tweak the layout a little bit, but the engine takes care of actually delivering and rendering that content to each individual user. So we just try to make that as easy as possible, especially understanding that most people are working in small teams.
Yeah, those the 15 to 25% increase, I think those are fantastic results. But could you clarify whether that was if you had an abandoned cart beforehand, or if that was just?
That's a great question. We did not.
Okay.
We actually wanted to have predictive intelligence before we instituted an abandoned cart campaign. So that's compared to our overall click-through rates, our overall conversion rates when we look at newsletter marketing. So averages.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit more to how effectively you can map your shoppers to your subscribers so that you can do that abandoned cart campaign, and what % of your visitors to your website you can actually tie to an email address.
Yeah, I can't speak to the percentages. I will say that it's a small audience. And that's really the part that we're excited about, right? So if we can take that small audience, and the small audience that I'm talking about is because we can't send an email to everybody, they have to register with us, so therefore give us consent to send them marketing messages. They also have to take that action of leaving something in the cart. So it's just a small percentage of the overall audience that leaves something in the cart. But we're seeing that revenue that was never there before, and we're very excited about it. So that's where we're thinking, okay, so if we can make this impact, having this campaign that's only going to a small percentage of our overall audience, what if we instituted a browse abandon campaign? And that's something that we're looking to do with Journey Builder. What if we instituted another campaign? Because of course you're never going to capture 100% of your site traffic, right? We should all be so lucky that 100% of them register to receive our marketing messages. But being able to target and speak to in a way that makes sense with that audience that we are able to capture has been, so far the results have been great.
And additionally, one thing that the PI beacon does is help you with that process of tying that web traffic to your known subscribers. When we detect a click-through or an open, when a user lands on that page, we're within that JavaScript code, we had matching those two things up right at that point. We're also looking at when users log into the website. So, again, that's not the 100% of your users, but we're trying to get as many of those points as possible where we can intelligently try to match all of those things up so we have a true connection on that identity of that customer. Any other questions?
What does the predictive intelligence do that the new Collect Web Analytics app and Journey Builder don't do?
That's a great question.
I'll let you take that one.
Sure, absolutely. No, go ahead, Doctor. You're doing a great job. We would like you to think of it as all kind of being one thing. The beacon that drives the mobile and web analytics is the same beacon that drives predictive intelligence. So where web and mobile analytics fits is you implement the beacon on your website, and you start to get these rich visualizations and understanding of what your users are doing. Using kind of that traditional segmentation approach. I want to look at broad groups of customers and I really want to engage with or interact with those groups. And that's where you can create a data extension or create a journey right there, right? So that capability is all coming from that same beacon. Predictive intelligence adds a whole other layer of capabilities. You don't have to do any other work. After you have that beacon installed on your website, we can turn on PI and give you another little snippet of JavaScript code that will make website recommendations appear. We can give you another snippet that will integrate these email recommendations into your templates. All of those things kind of just happen in the same system. The value to you is it's all in one database and it's all exactly the same data. So we keep that consistency across all those different ways that you interact with the customer. So it just depends on how you want to work with it. We've heard a lot of our PI customers say who've been using predictive intelligence that they want to know more about their customers because we don't, they argue that this is kind of a black box. Well, the analytics gives you the ability to kind of see what we're seeing and understand how we're arriving at some of the personalization goals that we have. Great question. Any other questions? Oh, over here.
Hi, what's the setup required in time for all the assets you need once the PI is started?
It's a great question. I don't know if you want to speak to your personal.
I can speak to my personal experience. With us, I think all in all, it took about a month, but also keep in mind that it required the development of the templates, which we have, strict creative standards. They had to go through the approval process. But the integration of the actual recommendations, that's something you work with a dedicated team within ExactTarget because I don't have the technology to do something like this on my own. So, I provide the creative assets and the direction, but they do everything on the back end that makes it work, which for somebody like myself who has absolutely no IT knowledge was great. And, further, so that's the initial setup. And once it's in place and everything is running, you then work with an optimization specialist, who ours, Molly, has been absolutely amazing, to ensure that you don't just let this algorithm run and do its thing, but you're constantly optimizing. You're conducting A/B tests. You're trying different things to always continually improve your marketing efforts.
Yeah, there's really just two pieces that you have to do, and that's, services can do this, and we've tried to give a way for you to do this within the interface. But one is get the observational beacon on your website. We just need to know some basic information, what SKUs are on the page, if somebody converted. Just get those in place one time, you never have to change it. The other thing we need is a catalog, an understanding of the content or the products that a user might be looking at. So that usually involves some sort of batch data exchange. We have a lot of different options for that because, again, we're trying to eliminate all that friction of trying to get data into the Marketing Cloud. Then that's it. Then you configure how you want the personalization to look, and you embed that into your email template, and you're ready to go. There's no additional work required. And as Dasha alluded to, we have a whole team that can kind of help hold your hand through that process and make it easy for you. If there are no other immediate questions, I got a 1-minute demo if Linda can run through it, just to show you how easy this is. This is our interface within the Marketing Cloud. You can see this is where you manage your predictive content. So we have one configured personalized email template right here. This is for a demo you may have seen during the content keynote. But here, there's just a 3-step process. First, we want to talk about what items do you want to appear within the personalization. So this is kind of where you map, do you want a product picture, do you want a title or something like that to appear? You have some control over customizing the prediction engine. We give you some best practices. The engine can kind of tell you what the best way is to do it, but if you have another idea or you want to layer your own business rules on top of it, you can do that here as well. And finally, you have some control over the actual layout. How many different personalizations, recommendations, whatever do you want to appear within your outgoing messaging? You simply drag and drop, and this configures exactly how it will look when it's rendered into the email. Finally, you save this, and then let's switch over to the email application. So this is the new editor. I don't know how many of you had a chance to interact with this yet, but we're going to show how easy it is to just take that personalized content we configured within our application and get it integrated into this email template. It's simply drag and drop. Linda's going to take a predictive content block, drag it into the email template, and then select the campaign that she just created. So there you go. Now Hulu has a personalized message. Now every person who receives this message, that block that she's highlighting right there will be different based on their interests and based on the catalog of content or items that we were provided. And that's it. Anybody else have any other? Thanks, Linda. Appreciate that. Anybody else have any questions for us? Yep.
Do you still have the ability to preview what that personalized message looks like?
Yes. So it's not in here, but there's another screen where the send preview. If you actually input the user's email address or pick the subscriber, it will render exactly what that user will see. You have a full transparency in everything we're doing behind the scenes.
And the same with any other email in the Marketing Cloud, you can send yourself a test or preview.
Great.
And see it in your inbox.
There's one hand up over there in the. Yeah, inventory is very important. So we have a couple ways we can support that. You can include inventory in the daily feed that we get. We also have a separate API. So if your inventory is constantly changing, we can do another integration where you can just kind of feed us that inventory in real time. So the great thing about our real-time engine is the second that we get the signal that the inventory is unavailable, we stop recommending it. And another nuance of our platform is that since these are image-based personalizations, if that item is out of stock, we'll actually recommend another item that's in stock. And that can happen actually after you've sent the message to the subscriber.
I have a question. It's about real time. So about this remarketing abandonment, how quickly we can do that? Can we get the customer while he's still logged in, while he's still there, or what's the minimum time?
The minimum time is configurable. I think Dasha said that you're doing an hour or two.
Yeah, you really, with the trigger campaigns, it's really up to you, or in this case, up to us. I believe we said it's a drip campaign, so the first email is deployed within 2 hours, and then the follow-up email, which is only deployed if there's no action taken on the first email, is deployed within 24 hours. And we find a lot of times that the second email is not deployed, so that's where we're seeing the success.
It's great. It's totally configurable. You can test out different periods of time. Obviously you may not want to abandon a cart within 30 seconds of somebody being on that cart page, but if it's 10 minutes, we can configure for 10 minutes. If you want to wait an hour, we can wait an hour. It just depends on sort of what you view.
It can be less than an hour.
It can be less than an hour. Mm-hmm. Yep. Go ahead.
Is the email rendered in real time, or is it rendered on
The email is rendered on open. So you open the email, any predictive content is rendered at the time that that email is opened. The content can change. Thank you.
Does this still work if you have multiple websites?
It's a great question. Yes, we have lots of brands that have multiple websites. A big challenge is trying to like roll up all those identities into something that's meaningful but doesn't like prejudice one particular site over another. But we've kind of adopted the exact target structure of that kind of enterprise 2.0. You can have multiple orgs that roll up into the same thing. And our optimization consultant will work with you to establish, do we need to create rules to separate how we respond to behavior on this site versus that site, even if you still want kind of that combined one view of the customer, one record. So it just depends on how you're architected, but we definitely have the ability to roll into that. Anybody else? We're kind of running, probably can do one more if anybody has any other questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Is this strictly for product recommendations, or could you use it to help predict when to send?
You said, I'm sorry, you said when?
Yes, use it to predict when to send it.
Yeah, that was kind of, I meant to respond to the question about Journey Builder a little bit better. So another capability that we have is we're watching all of these events roll in. And this is kind of the foundation of our trigger campaigns, is the ability to observe events that you think are meaningful and use those to feed into Journey Builder so that you can configure how you respond to them. So the when becomes you giving us a set of events that you think are important, and us telling you when that event happens and maybe what the priority is or what we think, which message will get the best response from a user. But that works within the context of Journey Builder to really understand when it is that we want to interact with the user based on a particular event. Okay? Well, thank you all very, very much. Thank you, Dasha, for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
If you're staying in this room, if you could run out and get rescanned, we just need some accurate head count on.